You're dead. 10 minutes have passed. The first fly is already crawling over your body. It smelled you from 16 kilometers away. This isn't a horror story. It's a documented fact. These insects don't have nostrils. They smell death with tiny receptors right on their legs. They detect the first signs of decomposition faster than any living creature on the planet. These flies aren't random visitors. They specifically hunt for the scent of decay. The faster the body begins to decompose, the more of them flock. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The body emits dozens of different chemical signals into the air. Their composition changes with each hour of decomposition, and each new wave of odor triggers a new wave of insects. Within 24 hours, there are thousands of eggs on the body. Within 3 days, the first larvae. Within a month, in warm weather, only a skeleton may remain. This is not an exaggeration. This is real speed. One female lays up to 300 eggs at a time. There can be hundreds of such females on the body. Within a few hours, tens of thousands of maggots are swarming around at once. Scientists say 3 flies and their offspring can devour a horse's body as quickly as a lion. This was written by biologist Carl Linnaeus back in the 18th century, and no one has refuted it since. Behind the closed door, a soft sound could be heard, like water boiling on a stove. There was no stove there. It was thousands of maggots simultaneously devouring flesh. The maggots move in a solid living mass. When they feed, they generate so much heat that the temperature inside their cluster rises 20 degrees higher than in the room itself. This is physics, not fiction. Millions of tiny bodies act like a biological furnace. Forensic scientists measure this temperature right at the crime scene and factor it into their calculations. This is precisely what helps solve murders. Knowing the maggot growth rate and the room temperature, an expert can pinpoint exactly when a person died, accurate to within a few hours. In real cases, bodies sometimes lie for months. Police cannot determine the date of death until a specialist takes maggot samples and recounts everything, stage by stage. Maggots can even penetrate closed spaces. In real cases, they crawled under doors, through cracks in the floor, from ventilation holes, places no living person had entered for weeks. Larvae cannot lie. They grow with biological precision that cannot be faked. That's why, in the most complex cases, such an expert is more important than a regular pathologist. Flies aren't the only ones attacking the body. There's a strict order. Each insect species arrives at a specific time and takes its share. Blue and green blowflies arrive first, in the first hours after death. Other species of flies follow, followed by various species of carrion beetles and skin beetles, layer after layer. Each successive wave consumes what remains of the previous one. Some take soft tissue, others the remains of fat and tendons, and still others what's still clinging to the bones. Nothing is wasted. This system isn't random. It's evolved over millions of years. Each species knows when it's its turn. They don't interfere with one another. They work like a conveyor belt set in motion by nature itself. Scientists have studied this order in such detail that the composition of insects on a body can determine not only the date of death, but also whether the body was moved after death. If insects typical of a southern climate are found on a body, and the body is discovered in the north, the killer transported it. The maggots became evidence they hadn't even considered. Such cases aren't unique to today. In the 13th century, a Chinese investigator identified a murderer because flies had flocked to his sickle, leaving invisible traces of blood.
It's closed.
A doctor takes live worms and places them directly into a patient's open wound. This isn't a punishment or an experiment. It's an officially approved treatment method used right now. The larvae feed only on dead tissue, leaving living tissue untouched. They cleanse the wound from the inside, reaching corners where a scalpel simply can't reach without risking harm. Each larva removes up to 25 milligrams of dead tissue per day. When there are several hundred of them on a wound, the wound is completely cleared in just 2 or 3 days. Patients describe the sensation as a tickling or mild itching. Some ask for the larvae to be removed immediately. Others undergo this treatment 10 times and say it saved them from amputation. This is especially common in diabetics. Festering wounds that don't heal are the main reason for amputations in such patients. The larvae are effective in areas where medications have long been ineffective. Today, doctors place larvae in tiny mesh bags to prevent them from spreading throughout the body. They feed directly through the mesh, like miniature surgeons at the very border between living and dead tissue. Surgeons in Napoleon's army noticed this 200 years ago. Soldiers with wounds contaminated by larvae survive far more often than others. Nature discovered this method long before the advent of antibiotics. The body was found in the bushes. The police didn't know when the murder occurred, where it occurred, or how long it had been hidden there. Ultimately, all the answers came not from investigators or equipment, but from the maggots on the body. A specialist collected the maggots from the body, placed them in a special device at the right temperature, and began counting backwards through the stages of their growth, like a biological clock. Maggots can't be bribed or intimidated. Their growth is a precise log of events, beginning with the first minute after a person stopped breathing. It's impossible to rewrite. Do you think it's somewhere far away? If a person dies alone, in an apartment, a basement, or in the woods, insects are the first to report it, sometimes several weeks after death. In real cases, neighbors noticed not the smell, but the maggots crawling out from under a closed door. It was these maggots that led the police to the body, which had lain there for over a month. In one real-life case, thousands of larvae crawled across the entire building, descending along the ceiling to the lower floors and crawling into neighbors' apartments. They were collected and taken away by the bucketful. We're used to thinking of death as complete silence, but in reality, it begins with movement. Millions of tiny creatures that already know you're dead long before anyone else. Subscribe to the channel and watch other episodes. It's important.